All right, so here we are. Hi everyone. Hi to everyone listening and everyone watching back home. I know it's tough times for everyone, so hope you guys are all staying safe. I got a very special guest today who's gonna take the time and answer a few questions for us. Jim Earl, head golf coach at Central Michigan University. So Jim, first of all, thank you so much for taking the time. Maybe start off by telling me a bit more about your coaching background and maybe your program at Central Michigan as well, just so people have a better idea of who you are and what you do.
Well, thanks, Patrick, and thanks for doing this. So, in the fall of 2020, I'll be starting my 18th year of coaching NCAA women's golf. I was 12 years at the University of Missouri St. Louis. When I took that job, it was a fairly new program, and I was able to build a very strong program. Then I took the job at Cal State Monterey Bay, went out to Paradise for 3 years, and rebooted that program, got it back on track and back to the NCAA tournament. And then the opportunity to take the job at Central Michigan opened up and to move to the Division I level. And it was a great fit for my family and I to come back to the Midwest. And I absolutely loved being at Central Michigan for sure. Back in St. Louis, where I'm from, I was in the Gateway section, was a club professional for 17 years. But coaching is, it's just been the love of my life, really, and it's my passion, and golf's given me everything, and it's great to give back to the game of golf. So
Okay, awesome, perfect. I was very happy when you agreed to do this because I know you have a ton of experience. You have actually coached at different levels, Division I, Division II. So obviously you've been around college golf for a while. So I'm glad you took the time to answer a few of our questions because um, it it's very interesting for kids to obviously get the feedback from a coach directly because like I said, you have been doing this for a while. So. Um, Central Michigan, I know you guys are ranked pretty high up in the academic rankings as well. Maybe can you explain to us a bit more about, the difference maybe between a program like Central Michigan, where academics are important to maybe, a mainstream Division I team where the focus is maybe more on sports?
well, I think the biggest difference, Patrick, is the level of support for academics that the athletic department provides to its student athletes. So at Central Michigan, um, I think there's close to 500 plus student athletes. Cumulative GPA is over a 3.1, which is pretty astounding. Our GPA in our program is a over 3.5 or 3.6. But there is a whole department that's academic athletics support system with several advisors. I'm getting updates on grades weekly from every player on the team from their professors. Any type of tutoring, they're just on top of everything. So the level of support, from my experience and at the other universities that I've been at, it's not even close. So
Mhm.
I think that's maybe the biggest difference is that the athletic department really at Central Michigan really cares about the student athletes' education, not and as much as their athletic experience.
Okay. Okay. Perfect. Perfect. What about in terms of requirements to get kids into school? Is there any big differences there? Like what test scores do you guys require? What GPA?
So GPA, typically it's your GPA needs to be around a 3.3 or higher to get in. International kids, they're not looking at test scores for international admissions. So it's more GPA core courses. Obviously, you have to take the test scores for the NCAA Eligibility Center to be eligible there. But for the US kids, it's test scores around 20, 22 is probably about the minimum. And they average between 24 and 28 is the uh, SAT score to
Okay.
get in. Yeah.
Okay. What about your recruiting timeline? Maybe compared to, where you were before at the Division II level. When do you start recruiting? When do you usually, you know, make your offers, get commitments from kids?
Yeah, so that is a little different from the Division 2 side. Division 2 side, I signed a lot of kids in the late signing period. Division 1, I'm signing most of my kids in the early signing period. And I start looking at kids typically their junior year. Um, Not too much. I'm not looking at too many kids before their junior year. And I think it's a misconception by from kids that when they wait into their junior year that they're behind they're behind to the curve. I really don't think they are at that point. But there's a big growth period that I found in golf games from their junior to senior year. So I start to communicate with them junior year and really try to make an offer if it's a kid that I'm really think is going to help our program. You can make that verbal commitment, really anytime, but to make that official and get that official commitment on the early signing period.
Which is still, something that's very interesting for kids in Europe or around the world to hear, because I'm from Belgium originally, and when I started the process, I started super late. I just didn't know anything about it. I thought starting in, March, April of the year that I was going to go to the US was fine, was plenty of time. But, most Europeans, they need to start earlier. So, like you said, beginning of junior year, which is about 2 years in advance, is a good time to start, right?
Yeah, I think that's a great time to start. And by that time too, you've sort of established a pretty good resume at that
Mhm.
point of events that if you have played in you know, that are where the distance is a little bit longer and that's a little bit more, uh, can give you a better idea of what type of collegiate golfer that they might be.
Yeah. No, totally. You mentioned the support that you guys offer at Central Michigan from an academic standpoint. What about, other aspects of, well, golf life and student life? For example, nutrition, psychologist. Do you guys have any support there as well, or how do you handle that?
Yeah, definitely. And exciting for us as well is the start of the fall. There's a new athletic nutrition doctor center. I don't know what the official name of this building is going to be. It's at the north end of the football stadium, but we're going to have all of our team physicians there, all of our trainers, all of our nutritionists. Um, and for us, just for the 2 years I've been at Central Michigan, we have our own physical trainer that puts together an individual program um, designed specifically for golf. And then workouts, our trainer, and then also our physical trainer, and then our health trainer are there at every workout, running each one of them. So it's it's then they have constant contact with the athlete um, on how are they feeling, what kind of physio we're going to do to get them in the best possible shape or get their bodies feeling well. So that aspect is fantastic because yeah, at their disposal they have those two professionals and the whole staff to work with. So we'll have this new nutrition center as well, which the trainer who's trained on that has been covering that. Um, for the mental side, we work with it's called Winning Mindset, and it's Jake Hunter is the CEO of this company who we work with via Team Skype together. Uh, and he was an NCAA wrestler and trying to get the mental strong edge on it. So we work with him on a professional level there. So
Awesome. Yeah,
which is
that's
great.
it's funny how things have changed. When I went to college, I started in '05. We're just playing golf. We're playing a lot of golf, but the
Right.
the whole gym aspect and mental coaches, nutrition, that has definitely changed. And I know schools like you guys, you obviously have that support system in place now, which at my time, we're just playing golf all day, so it has changed a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot different from when I first started coaching 17 years ago. It's evolved quite
Mhm.
rapidly, and it's pretty neat to see because the golfers are athletes,
Yeah.
and and a lot of times girls coming in they haven't gone through a strenuous sort of workout routine and just sort of watch them develop and how that equates to club head speed and moving the golf ball. And you see a big improvement.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. What about what is one piece of advice that you would give to a kid that's starting the process? Again, like I said at the beginning, a lot of the kids that we start with, you know, they don't know much about the process. So obviously that's part of our job to, you know, explain everything to them. But what's one piece of advice from a coaching standpoint that you would give to a prospective student athlete?
Yeah, it's quite a daunting process, right? For an international kid to start to look at universities. I think the more research you do on the university, the better. Each university has a mission statement. I mean, make sure you read those mission statements of the university. If it's the right fit for you, and because they will lay out what their vision is for their student athletes. For example, Central Michigan is a very open school. It's more of a global type feeling to it, and trying to prepare the athlete or the student athlete or the student to enter the global world of acceptance and things on that nature. So make sure that you do that, and then communication with the coach, I think, is really important. If it's a place that you really want to go, make sure that you're communicating promptly back and forth with that coach, because we get flooded with emails each day.
So
From
would you say that, you know, doing Skype calls, WhatsApp conversations is maybe
Yeah,
something
I think
that's essential compared to just doing emails?
yeah, I think so. I think Skype calls are great. I know I personally try to involve my team with that as well. If you get to know some players on the team, and you know, if it's somebody that I'm really serious about, I mean, and we're in season, I'll bring the whole team in on a Skype call so they can answer questions with the team and try to get a sense of the feel of what it's like to be on, you know, for Central Michigan's golf team.
Mhm,
So, um, yes. So it's nice to have communication with the parents, but
mhm,
if the coach is just talking back and forth with mom or dad, that that's probably not the best scenario.
mhm,
You know, I would I would really encourage the players and the prospective student athlete to take the lead on that. And then there's sort of a natural point within that whole recruiting process where you bring the parents into those conversations.
mhm,
So,
mhm.
but the
So,
coach wants to get to know the player,
mhm.
and the person the best that they can
Since
beforehand.
you just mentioned, you know, how the whole process works, how you recruit the kids, what is one thing that you look for in an athlete, and maybe one thing that's an absolute no-go? You know, if you speak to a kid and they say one thing, when is it game over for them?
Well, one thing I'm really looking at is in the golf swing is fundamentals, and good swing mechanic fundamentals are really important, at least for me. Um, so if the fundamentals I think are, if that face is really super shut at the top and that grip is just way too strong, and that might be a no starter in some scenarios for me, just sort of technically wise speaking about the golf swing. But you try to get a sense of that player if they play for the love of the game of golf and competing. If you get the sense that they're playing for just a scholarship or for mom and dad, that's sort of that's a that's a no-go,
Okay,
at least
interesting.
at least in my book. Or sometimes kids, they start off with, what's my scholarship offer going to
Hmm.
be? Let that process work out.
Hmm.
um I it's you're not going to be talking to a coach for weeks before you get that scholarship
Hmm.
offer. It's going to come quicker than you think, but if you lead with it, I think that can be a little bit off-putting. So,
Yeah, yeah, totally, totally. Okay. Change of topic, because this is probably something that I guess you deal with quite a bit. Location. So you guys are obviously located in the northern state. We get it a lot from golfers. They come to us. They say, "I want to be in Florida. I want to be in California."
Yeah.
How do you deal with that? And then, yeah, how do you guys handle the, let's say, colder months in the winter in terms of practice, tournaments, and stuff like that?
Right. Well, the NCAA, as you know, the season's broken down into two seasons that create one: the fall and the spring season. So the fall season, we're playing five 54 hole events in the fall, and the weather just couldn't be better. And even as far north as Central Michigan for late August, all of September, and almost all of October when your non-championship season is being held. So that's great. That's fantastic to be out. There's no humidity. It's wonderful. When the spring comes and winter sets in, kids come back from winter break typically, and international kids usually travel back home. So for the harshest part of the winter, they're back home on the winter break. They get back, and for us, we have our own indoor practice facility. So we're practicing a lot inside. We have heated bays where we can hit the ball out into we have our own private driving range where we can hit the ball out into the range. We have a 3,500 square foot putting green, TrackMan 4. We have our own simulator room with PGA Tour simulator. And so we have access to two simulators, a huge practice green. And so we are practicing every day, and they have access to it 24/7. So even if it's outside of a official practice, you are indoors, or you have access to that facility 24/7. So you're definitely going to get all the practice you want. Now, when the spring season starts, typically we'll take a trip in January, fly the team down south, get some practice, get some good practice in, like an extended weekend, come back, and then we're leaving a few days early for each event to get out, get some practice for those first events that are in February, when it's very difficult to get on the golf course up north.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the advantages of being at a northern school is that the spring season forces our hand to travel. So you're going to see a lot more of the U.S. is what you would if you were in a warmer climate school. You're going to be traveling out west to California. You're going to be traveling out west to Arizona or Florida or the Carolinas. So you're going to get this. It's going to be a great opportunity to see and experience all corners of the United States when you're at a northern school, and you have to travel for the first 3 or 4 events of the at the spring season.
Mm-hmm.
So
Let's focus maybe a bit more on that spring semester. So the kids get back to campus, let's say middle of January. Is that about right? What
yeah, so yeah,
what
go
is
ahead.
the schedule like then? The daily schedule, the practice routine, and then your tournament schedule in the spring. When do you guys start? Where did you go, for example, this year before everything got stopped?
Yeah, so we went down to Fort Fort Lauderdale. We went down before we traveled before the start of our first tournament, which was the MAC match play, which is in Tampa. So the girls got back around the middle of January. We start right back into practice. We head down south, get some good practice in before the match play tournament that's in Tampa. And then our next event, we had a week of practice back home in Mount Pleasant. And then we flew out 5 days early to Arizona, which is a big trip for us for the Rio Verde Invitational. We're a PXG school, so we're one of the few schools in the country that are sponsored by PXG, meaning each player gets, at their freshman year, will get fit with a full set of PXG clubs. So we go out to Scottsdale. We'll fly out to Scottsdale, and then we'll visit the PXG factory, and we'll get to hang out with PXG all day and get an inside look at what they do and how they make clubs, because everything is done right there in Scottsdale. It's a great experience, and there could be an LPGA or PGA player walking in. hit shots and work on whatever the latest club that they're trying to tinker with. So it's a very neat experience. Um, we have a big donor that lives out there, and he's a real great friend of the golf team. So we'll stay with him and play Maribel Country Club 2 or 3 days before the start of the tournament. Last year we played Scottsdale National as well. So we go fairly early, and it's great because we get accustomed to the altitude and everything else. And then after that event, we're on spring break. So then we spent our spring break in the south of Georgia at Kinderloo, and then went to Sea Island, which is off the east coast of Georgia, and played at the Seaside course, which was fantastic. And then, unfortunately for us, the coronavirus hit then, which like everyone else, ended our season at that time in March. But our schedule was after that to come home, have another week of practice, and then fly out to Williamsburg and play at Kings Mill. And that tournament is hosted. It's a big event hosted by William and Mary, and it's just held up a couple weeks before the Silk Championship, the LPGA Silk Championship, there at the Kings Mill Resort. So, and then after that, you're in the Midwest for the next two events of the season, which would have been Bowling Green, which is a conference opponent, and then our conference championship. But in 2021, our conference championship has moved to a permanent site. So down your way, Patrick, it's going to be at PGA National.
Okay.
So we just signed the MAC Championship, just signed a 5-year deal with them. So
nice.
It's going to be very exciting. And on our spring break trip, I had forgot to mention we were scheduled to play at the end of our spring break at Hilton Head in our Wolford College's tournament. So another big event. So five events in the fall, 6 events in the spring before the start of the NCAAs. So
I think this is super interesting for young golfers in Europe to hear, because I hear it all the time. Northern schools, it's cold in the winter, but you guys travel so much that it's actually not, in my opinion, not that big of a deal, because once the kids get back in January from their break, which they go home anyways, once they get back, they're basically traveling nonstop and playing basically as much golf as you would, if you are in the Southern school.
Yeah, no doubt. And you're getting to some really awesome locations as well. So you're sort of getting the best of both worlds, I think. In the fall, you just can't beat the Northern Midwest in fall golf. It's fantastic. The golf courses are in great shape. You're playing some really neat tracks. And then in the spring, traveling to all those other warmer places in the U.S. and seeing some great parts of the country, which I think is part of that whole experience of being a collegiate athlete or collegiate golfer is getting out and getting to see those different parts of the U.S. And a few of the coaches that I've spoken to that are in the South, they typically don't have a reason to leave the South, so they're not traveling as much as we are, and they're not getting that that diverse view of the country as we are. So.
Okay, cool. Last question, Jim. So let's put yourself in the shoes of a 16, 17-year-old junior in high school. What is one piece of advice you would give to them? When they start the process, what should they do first? What should they maybe look for? Just to get themselves started.
Well, I think having a very polished golf resume and site that's easily accessible for the coach, I think is pretty important. Because I touched on this a little earlier, we're getting flooded with, at least I am, of potential student athletes emails each day. But as you don't want to make that too terribly long, you want to have easy access to the golf swing, so we can see that. I think that's super important, is to get the attention of the coach. And then communication, if it's a school that you want to play at, or if it's a school that you want to go, communication with that coach, I think is really key in the whole process. I think that's where someone like yourself comes into, Patrick, to be that intermediary that can connect the coach with the player as well. And then one of the big advice that I have for young prospective student athlete or golfers, I would really encourage them to find a university that you can help make better.
Mm-hmm.
So there are a lot of kids out there that are maybe going to are good enough to play in a Power Five conference, but maybe will not have the experience they would have going to a school where they could help make that school a better program. I think that's important to see. There are countless schools out there, and don't put all of your eggs in one basket, for sure. So
One important thing that I try to tell our kids is, playing. You want to be on that top 5 and play tournaments, because, if you're number 6 or 7 on the team and you don't get to travel, first of all, you're probably not going to get much better. Second of all, it's no fun knowing that your friends are traveling to Arizona and all that stuff and you're staying at home. So finding, I think, the right fit, where you are ideally number 1, 2, 3, 4 on the team, where you have the guarantee to play. I think that's a big thing that kids need to look for as well.
yeah, I think you want that. You want that experience, and then some kids want that challenge, the to play their way into that position. But I think you really do want that. You want that experience of traveling and competing. So looking at when you're looking at programs and scores and things of that nature, don't look at that 5 or 6 or 7 stroke average and think that the coach is going to want to bring a kid on. They really want to get better. That's our job, is to get better as a team. So if you can help a program be more successful, I think it's going to be so much more rewarding for that golfer to go to a program to make them better. So.
Mm-hmm. Totally perfect. Jim, that's all I have. I'm out of questions. So thank you so much for taking the time. Super informative, I think, for everyone. And stay healthy. Take care of yourself. All the best to your family. And then we'll probably be in touch very soon again.
Well, great. Well, likewise, Patrick. And, I know it is just a really daunting task for kids to try to decide where they want to play or who they want to play for. And just be diligent and stay positive and communicate. Communication is key. So
awesome. Perfect.
Great.
Thank you so
Patrick,
much, Jim.
Yeah,
Have a good
take
one.
care.
Speak soon, okay?
Yeah, wonderful. Bye-bye.